ready with me while I tell you how my husband convinced me to marry him 7 weeks after us meeting. No, I'm not kidding, and yes, we are still happily married, but damn, it has not been easy, and I'm gonna be way too honest with you guys. So here's the tea. Hunter and I both live in Utah, and we both grew up in LDS families, and I do think that that has a lot to do with why we got married so young. We met after Hunter served an LDS mission. We have since left the church, but that will be its own video. We were both 20 years old when we met, and 10 months before meeting Hunter, I had gotten out of a really abusive and toxic relationship. Although the relationship was honestly really horrible, my ex, not Hunter, I was definitely optimistic about still dating and wanting to get married. And going back to LDS culture, I really wanted to be a young mom. So dating to marry was always a priority for me. And for those of you that know anything about LDS missions, Hunter was like on the hunt for a wife when he got home. This timeline is about to give you severe anxiety, and honestly, same. Hunter and I met at a gym that we were both working out at. He asked me out on a Monday. We had our first date on Friday, and we became exclusive the following Tuesday. Here's the thing that I will absolutely stand by. Hunter is definitely my soulmate. I seriously feel like God and the universe created him to be married to me. He was just so amazing when we first met, and he has so many amazing qualities. And like I said, I had been in a 2-year-long relationship and actually lived with that person. So I had a pretty good idea of what marriage would potentially be like. And I was just so impressed by Hunter's priorities, and it was just so easy to fall in love with him. And let me just tell you one thing about Hunter Hughes. He is the most loyal man I have ever met. So when he knew that he wanted to marry me, there was just no waiting to pop the question for him. I kind of laugh because my parents were like so supportive. They were like, oh my gosh, we're so happy that she found this amazing guy. Anything to get her away from the last guy. It had been 10 months and I had dated in between that time frame. But my parents were just so happy and they were obsessed with Hunter. Hunter's parents were very happy for him as well. However, they didn't have that same drive for Hunter to get married. He had obviously just been gone for 2 years away from his family. So I don't think it had anything to do with me at all, but I think his parents were kind of sad. Not even necessarily that he was getting married, but just that things were moving super quickly. I also know that I'm going to get comments about being LDS and getting married so quickly. However, Hunter and I did not get married in the temple, so no, we were not getting married just to have sex, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I know it's taboo, but I really do believe when people say, when you know, you know. Because when I met Hunter, I just knew. And the way I knew was because I knew that I wanted him to be the father of my kids. I really don't know how else to explain it. However, I also want to say that even when you know, it doesn't mean you have to get married that quickly, and you can still date the person. The reason I say this is because if the person is really the one for you, if you date them for a year or two, like a healthy amount of time, they're still gonna be there. You guys are seriously going to die when I tell you this, but I am not kidding when I say that Hunter and I's first argument was after we got engaged. I think one of the biggest downfalls of getting married so quickly, even though I don't regret the decision at all in terms of who I married, but how I went about dating and actually getting married, I do regret. And Hunter and I have been super open and talked about this a lot, especially now that we have a daughter. We're like, holy shit, if she did that, we would kill her. Saying that though, one of the biggest downfalls is that you literally don't know the person you're getting engaged to. When you've only been dating for 7 weeks, you're literally still in the honeymoon phase and you're still on your best behavior. Call me crazy, but before you decide to spend your life with someone, I think it's pretty important that you go on a trip with them, spend the holidays with them, get in a freaking argument so you can see how the two of you problem solve together. None of these things should deter you from the person if they're really meant to be. All of these things should make your relationship stronger and actually benefit you as a couple. Just take you further away from the person. It was so interesting because when Hunter and I were married, we really spent the first year of our marriage getting to know each other, getting to know each other's habits. We never lived together before we got married. Obviously, we wouldn't have had the time to do it. But what Hunter and I talk about now is that we wish we would have just had more time to date. We're kind of sad that we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend for long enough, and we didn't have that stage of being engaged for long enough. And we just wish we could have spent more time in those phases. I will say that I think one of the reasons Hunter and I are so comfortable saying that other people should not get married married that quickly is because we are 100% confident that if we had dated for a longer period of time, we still would have ended up getting married, which is ultimately the most important thing, but it just would have been smoother sailing for the first few years. I am not kidding when I say that after Hunter and I's first date, we literally spent every single second together for 7 weeks until we got engaged. I'm really not kidding. We probably spent the same amount of time together in 7 weeks that most people do in like 6 months when they first start dating, because we were like so attached to each other. We were also so young, so we were still just like growing up. One of the most beautiful parts of Hunter and I getting married so quickly and so young is that we've really had the ability to grow together. I think it makes our relationship so special that we started our businesses when we were really, really young, and we've been able to financially grow together. We've also grown together spiritually. We ended up leaving the Mormon church after we got married, and it's so fortunate that Hunter and I have actually grown together and not apart. And I think that's just another testament to the fact that we just knew that we were soulmates. It's so funny because I just obviously would never recommend the journey that Hunter and I had with anyone else. But it's so funny how I just look back and think I really wouldn't do anything different specifically with him because of how much it has taught me and just how much we've experienced together in our marriage. I do think that getting together so young has just given us more years together, and I'm so grateful for that. Although I wish that some of those years were actually spent dating instead of married, but I don't think we knew how to do anything different at the time. Another thing that I find just so special about Hunter and I's journey is I can say without a shadow of a doubt, from the moment that Hunter laid eyes on me, he has chosen me every single moment since, and he can say the same thing about me. And I just think the amount of loyalty that that represents, because marriage is so hard, you guys. And especially before we had kids, like we could have called it quits. And of course you can still call it quits after you have kids, but it's a lot more technical and difficult. But I am just so proud of us for truly working through everything when we were literally kids, like trying to navigate life and grow up together, coming from 2 different households. Not only that, but navigating like massive life changes together at such a young age, like the birth of our son, Beckham, having a special needs child, leaving the church we grew up in. It's just so cool to see what we've accomplished together. I seriously can't help but just laugh looking back, because I'm sure my friends were just like losing their shit. Like, what is this girl doing? But every single person who saw Hunter and I together just could tell how in love we were. And I think we just knew. So even though it made the first few years of our marriage, I think a little bit more difficult than they would have been had we dated for a longer period of time, I think looking back, now that we've been together for 8 years, our story makes our love that much sweeter. So I'm dying to know, how did you guys meet your significant other? And tell me about your love story, because everybody's are so different, and I just love hearing different people's experiences. So even though I wouldn't recommend our story to anybody else, I will forever be grateful that I got to grow up with my best friend and the love of my life. Love you guys. Bye.